Well, I get the non-contributory pension, the minimum 630. Well, I pay 500 for rent.
What you have left to get through the month is 130 euros. Yes.
For Spaniards, honestly, it's very tough.
But it just so happened that for Pakistani citizens, the loss of passports had increased by 866%. So, of course, since we already know that trick, well, now they use this new one. Seeing that at the consulate, they basically just say, okay, what's your name? Pepito Perez. Well, Pepito Perez, go ahead. Bring the 180 euros because we don't want lines, and it's that easy.
He went to Israel. He is in a process of converting to Judaism. And he reads the Torah and has his mentor. For him, Israel is very important. So it was during this Jewish celebration of lighting torches. And they gave him the honor of lighting the last torch, which is very significant for them. And well, he is very loved in Israel. He caused a sensation, a rock star. What can I say?
The problem from my point of view is not Sanchez. The problem is how, even though it is very clear throughout the country what the origin is, what the background of this person is, it seems like it won't have any repercussions. In any mature country with a minimum of critical social awareness, with a healthy society from a moral point of view, this would be enough to bring down a government. Nothing more would be needed. These are the facts. You emerge, you prosper, you thrive through lies, cheating, and undermining the foundations of democracy, which is rigging a ballot box. And you cannot spend even one more minute corrupting democratic society and denigrating an entire country.
Castillón Confidencial by Albert Castillón. Welcome. How are you, Confidentials? Thank you for being there, for defending the front line of press freedom, and for supporting this channel. Give us lots of likes. They help us a lot get noticed. By the way, what they say about YouTube algorithms, don't expect them to send you an email to tune in. Every morning, we're here at about 6:45 in the morning, Spain time. Look for us. If YouTube doesn't tell you, look for us yourself. Look, things need to be explained as they are. National priority has become a point of debate in Spain because Vox is demanding it in several regional governments where it is together with the People's Party. What is national priority? Well, it means that in healthcare, housing, and social assistance, a foreigner shouldn't always come first. A foreigner who has just been regularized shouldn't come before a national who has paid taxes all their life. That happens, and we've been telling you about it for years. Look, let me give you an example. Imagine one of the people the government has just regularized. We're talking about between families and family reunification. It will be about 1.5 million in a year and a half. All right, if he doesn't have a job, he'll receive the minimum vital income, which requires 1 year of residency and is 733 euros per month. If there's family reunification and he comes with his wife, the couple, 900 euros per month from the minimum vital income. If they have children, every time a child is born, there is a one-time payment of 1,000 euros. But then there is a benefit. Every month, there is a payment of 200 euros per child as long as they are under 18 years old. Therefore, if you imagine a regularized married couple who had already spent a year illegally in Spain and now they are getting their papers, a couple with 3 children would receive 1,600 euros a month without working. But that's not all. Healthcare is completely free and schooling is completely free. They will get a school lunch subsidy before others. In housing, if they have a family member over 65 or under 35, the children, 50% of the rent is also subsidized for them. Those are the advantages for someone who has been in Spain illegally for a year and suddenly wants to regularize their situation. It's a real pull factor for countless countries around the world. But what about Spaniards in a similar vulnerable situation? I think the best way to explain what national priority is with a specific case. Jose Maria Hurtado, how are you? How's it going, my friend?
Good morning, Albert.
People got to know Jose Maria because we helped him get surgery for his little dog Rufo, who was bitten by another animal. And that time you told me how much you received from your pension. I want you to explain it now because you contributed for years, right?
12 years and 8 months. Because many of the jobs I had didn't register me for Social Security.
Right. And they paid you in cash, and not all of it included Social Security contributions.
Remember, I began working in 71 and have spent my entire life in hospitality. So there were times when...
Of course. How much do you make? How much is your pension?
Well, I get the minimum non-contributory pension, 630.
630. Do you get any help for electricity, water?
Social assistance gives me help with electricity directly because they say I exceed the limit of 7,200. I think that's what the law says per year. If you go over a certain amount they set, they don't give you help. So for now, social assistance hasn't helped me with water either. What I did get was some help with the rent, but they've garnished it.
Well, but how much was that rental assistance?
1,600 for 6 months, I think it was.
6 months, but it was seized from you because there were some outstanding fines, right?
Yes, the tax office took it. I never even saw the money because they applied it to my balance. And well, the tax office says that since there was credit in the account, they took it, they seized it.
You can't live on 630 euros a month, can you?
Well, I paid 500 for rent.
For that?
When I got my apartment, I paid 350 and my wife was still alive. So there were 2 incomes. Now, since they've raised it to 500 and my wife passed away, now I'm left alone with 500. It's an idea. I rent out a room.
It's a room. What you have left to get through the month is 130 euros. Yes. Do you get any other kind of help, for example, to fill the fridge with food, anything?
Nothing. It's impossible. For Spaniards, honestly, it's really hard for us.
There's a debate about whether Spaniards should come first or not, what they call national priority. What do you think?
I think, Albert, that Spaniards should come first. And if there's anything left, then we can help everyone else who needs it. But we shouldn't be the last ones. Because let me tell you something briefly. The other day I went to the social worker to ask for help with electricity and water, but in the end they denied it to me. And there was a black lady in the line with 2 kids, and she was telling another lady of the same race who was sitting next to her about how much she was receiving in benefits. And she was saying, look, they give me money for food, they give me money for things, they give me money for the dentist, for my kids' glasses. They give me 800 plus 400 in assistance for the apartment, 800 for food and 400, that's 1,200, you know. And I was digging my nails into my hands out of anger because I saw all the money these people spend. And me, with 630 that I asked for as a little help to pay for electricity and water, tell me they denied it to me because they tell me I exceed the minimum wage, 7,200 that I earn a year. And they say I exceeded. I don't know. I don't know what it could be because, of course, I have 630, which is 14 payments. So, of course, if they add up the payments, I go over 7,200, of course.
Yeah. It's incredible that the political class doesn't understand it. What would you say to them?
Well, they should put their own people first because I understand that people look out for themselves first. Here in your city, your citizens, we're the ones who have been paying our whole lives and the ones who are working hard. I'm 68 and I've been working as a waiter since I was 14. I've paid in everything I could and more. But now I find myself in this situation and I ask for a little help for electricity and water and they say you can't because you exceed the minimum wage. I ask for help to fix my teeth. Things are really bad right now. It's not possible for now, we'll let you know. Seeing what they see honestly gives me life. I ask the government to focus more on the Spanish people.
You're very kind. Jose Maria, a big hug and always with you. Take care, my friend.
If you visit Valencia, see me.
That's a done deal. You know it. Take care. Big hug. Yes. No, you don't owe anything. As you can see, friends, this isn't about being unsupportive, no, nor xenophobic, nor racist, like some people say. No, demagoguery is putting outsiders first. What's the point of having paid into the system for 10, 20 years if later they leave you stranded just for being from here? This is the result of feel-good policies. For decades, they've only led to inequality between Spaniards by birth and Spaniards by adoption. It's another way to divide society, to make us fight so that the same people as always benefit. Those who make the laws and don't get their hands dirty. Welcome, friends, we investigate.
Castellón Confidencial by Albert Castillo.
Ladies and gentlemen, waves of Pakistanis are arriving in Spain from the United Kingdom, but also from Greece, from Portugal, from different countries. They're sneaking into the mass regularization through deception, and they are doing it mainly from the consulates in Barcelona and Madrid. A deception to get us to consider them legal. And they start working in Spain without anyone even knowing what their real name is. The alert comes from the National Police and Jupol. Laura Garcia, spokesperson for Jupol, how are you?
Hello, Albert. Good morning.
What's happening?
Well, what we all knew was going to happen from the very beginning. And in fact, we warned about the pull factor, about how easy it would be to forge, that the mafias would be rubbing their hands together because of these people's needs. And that's exactly what's happening. We see many different methods, and this is the latest one that has been detected. What these Pakistani citizens are doing, who mostly come from the United Kingdom, is going to the consulates, well, yes, to the Spanish consulates, and here in Madrid and Barcelona. And what they're doing is submitting a photocopy that's in, let's say, a terrible condition, or a printed photograph that's barely legible. And, well, they identify them as that citizen. And the truth is the consulates aren't making any effort, from what we've been told, to verify those facts. And to know if that person is or isn't, what they do is charge them the 180 euros, send that personal information, and wait for the new passport to be picked up. What happens? Well, from that moment on, those citizens already have a new identity, which is as clean as a whistle when it comes to criminal records, which is the only thing that can really be checked. And their regularization begins just like that. Do you remember, Albert, the internal report issued by the General Commissariat for Immigration and Borders, where they already warned that lost or stolen passports among these citizens had increased by 60%?
Everyone losing their passport at once.
Everyone. But coincidentally, for Pakistani citizens, well, the loss of passports had increased by 866%. So, of course, since we already know that trick, well, now they use this new one, right? Since at the consulate, it's basically like, okay, what's your name? Pepito Perez. Well, Pepito Perez, go ahead. Bring the 180 euros since we don't want lines. It's that simple, okay? Now they have a new identity.
There are dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of Pakistani citizens with false identities whose criminal records we don't know. But of course, their consulate has made them a passport with the name they've invented. This is extremely serious for security, isn't it?
It's extremely serious, Albert. And above all, as we've been saying from the very beginning, it's impossible to verify all the documentation. I mean, not all of it, not even half of half or even a quarter, because it's an enormous avalanche. And what if we had to take our time? If we had to look at every municipal registration, contact every city hall, contact every university, because they're submitting proof that they've taken some courses or whatever, no one is going to work for us, nor are they going to take on work that isn't their responsibility. And it's just impossible, humanly impossible and technically, to check every document. So now a Pakistani citizen comes to you with a brand new shiny passport, and who's going to bother to check if it's real or not? And that person could have a police record, of course, in the countries they're coming from, and a criminal record. But now that they have a new identity clean as a whistle, who's going to say no to them?
But have you heard Minister Marlaska saying that no one with a record is going to be regularized?
But that's impossible. It's just impossible. Let's see, the periods they've given to regularize are shorter because it's only until the end of June than it takes for a police record in Spain to lead to a final conviction and become a criminal record. That is, any citizen who has been detained in Spain, not once or twice, let's see, 100 times, they will not have a criminal record. They have a police record, and nothing, absolutely nothing, prevents them from starting this regularization process. What happens is that when their papers arrive, which will be in June, July, or August, but of course, the criminal record might take a year, 2, 3, or 4. They will have a record. They could even go to prison, but we have already regularized them. But that's not going to happen with just 1 or 2 people. That's going to happen with the hundreds and hundreds of people who have police records here in Spain. Because the justice system is slow, a final conviction won't come for years.
Of course, and someone who commits a crime today then gets regularized, an illegal foreigner, of course, we can't kick them out or send them back to their country anymore.
No, the official state gazette doesn't mention anything about it being revocable, which is why they're so confident it won't be regularized. Of course it's going to be regularized, but how do we fix that afterwards? No way. There's no mechanism, and they didn't include any clause saying it could be revoked later if it turns out that this person went to prison or doesn't have a criminal record. It doesn't appear anywhere. So it leaves us all tied up.
Laura, as journalists, we have our own theory about why the government does that. We believe it's to change the voter registry, to harm the People's Party because they've reinforced the facilities in major cities where the People's Party governs. Typical political stuff. But from the police perspective, Jupol, why do you think they're doing it? Because it's like saying they're making Spain less safe. Why?
We don't know the purpose. Yes, like all citizens, we listen to the testimonies when journalists go to ask the people who are there waiting in line to get their papers. And they ask them directly, who are you going to vote for when you can exercise your right to vote? Who would you vote for when you can do it? And they all answer Pedro Sanchez. We don't know what the end goal is, but as police officers, the only thing that concerns us is the safety of the citizens. That's why we raise the alarm and put our hands on our heads. When we see criminals who have been arrested, it can't be a coincidence that someone is arrested 40 times. I mean, could that person be a danger to public safety? Of course they could. We see them lining up to get their papers. Well, honestly, we think it's not only unethical, because empathy is basically non-existent here, since we're seeing them as criminals. They have the same rights as honest people who may have been working in our country under whatever conditions they can, in one way or another. But well, they're here, and if they meet all those requirements, they have the same rights as a criminal. We understand that it shouldn't be like that.
It's terrible. But well, we do what we have to do, even though the consequences of what we've been talking about these days can be very serious. Laura Garcia, send a big kiss to all the people from Jupol, not to Marlaska's people, to the good ones, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Alvaro. Sending you a kiss?
Castillon Confidencial by Albert Castillon. Before I start telling you things and debating with guests, allow me. We have a scoop and I want you to be the first to know. I'll tell you more next week. Something important is being prepared in Madrid. I've already been told. They've already explained to me what it's going to be. They're asking me to be cautious, and I will be. But to that question that I'm asked almost every day, what can we do when we see how to stop this emergency situation? How do we tell the world that we're living in a dictatorship, even if it doesn't seem like it? Something important is being prepared in Madrid. Will it be in May? And we're not talking about a demonstration, a gathering in Plaza Colón. No. Something else much better. And it will have a clear objective. Everyone is expected to go. Farmers, fed up police officers, struggling self-employed workers. Of course, I'm going, and I hope you will too. It will be in May. I can't tell you more for now, but finally it seems that someone has understood what this country needs, and something important is being prepared in Madrid. That's all I can say. You know that if they let me, I'll be the first to tell you. Allow me to greet my dear Julio Bronchal, our expert psychologist, one of the best minds in this country. How are you, my friend?
Well, it's a pleasure to greet you, to greet Susana and all the confidants. It's an honor to be with all of you once again.
Above all, we're really happy that you're at home, because they never see you at home. Even the dog, they tell me, barks at you when you come close, so watch out. Let's see if they see you more often. A ver si te ven más. Well, get ready because the earthquake is here. Azabachi from Argentina, how are you?
Hello, my warriors of light, lovers of freedom. A heartfelt hug from heart to heart, my beloved confidants. Albert, a big hug for you and for Julio as well.
A big kiss. Well, it's such a joy to see you and see you doing well. By the way, you're a singer, right? Yes. Besides being an actress and many other things and a civil rights activist, I want you to tell me how Milei sings Nino Bravo's song. Listen. Let's see, did you give it a heavy metal edge or is it just me, Azabachi?
I loved it. I loved that rock version of Libre. I loved it. 10 points for Milei.
Where was this? What happened? Because I didn't know about it.
He went to Israel. He is in a process of converting to Judaism. And he reads the Torah and has his mentor. For him, Israel is very important. So it was during this Jewish celebration of lighting torches. And they gave him the honor of lighting the last torch, which is very significant for them. And well, he is very loved in Israel. He's a rock star there. A rock star, what can I say?
Well, I mean, he wasn't Jewish, he was Catholic.
Yes. And now there's this conversion. He has said it publicly. This doesn't mean he abandons his teachings. In fact, he joins in everything related to Holy Week, to all the aspects of the religion that he has as his foundation. But now he's undergoing conversion. In fact, when he became president, there's a ceremony where the priest blesses him. Well, he held a ceremony with the religions that are present here in Argentina. I mean, he's very open to that, but he's definitely leaning toward this conversion. Yes.
Now, Sanchez will like him even more, right? Now that he's Jewish, Julio? He'll really like him.
Well, we live in a time where the struggle between good and evil has already been clearly established without any disguise or softening. So in the end, the sides are being defined, and it's already, let's see, the classic struggle of God against the devil, of good against evil. You have to stand on the side of good, on the side of God, obviously, always. Because in the end, evil will always lose. It causes harm because that's what evil does, but it ends up serving a purpose. Always giving way to love, to good, to creation. It's an idea psychology already developed around Eros and Thanatos, between the forces of construction, love, integrity, and destruction. Hey, and taking advantage of this, allow me just one question. Everyone knows that Nino Bravo was Valencian, but this song Libre, do you know its origin? If not, it's good to remember it. It's inspired by what happened in 1962, the leap that Peter Fechter took, a young German who jumped over the wall toward the West, toward freedom. And from there, things developed, and it was dedicated to all those Germans who, fleeing toward freedom and escaping communist tyranny, risked their lives. In fact, the song, if you look at it from this perspective, is when it makes sense and you understand why it has ended up becoming an anthem for all those who fight for freedom, for all those who fight against tyranny and in favor of human dignity and freedom.
How wonderful. That's true, and I didn't remember that detail. It's very important. Well, songs have a meaning, and words, my friends, sometimes have an effect. Look, since Claudia Sheinbaum became president of Mexico, and even before with Lopez Obrador, one of the objectives of their party is to attack Spain and Hispanic heritage. It's about criticizing Europe's role in the discovery of America, or at least brought culture, religion, universities, the church. There have been constant attacks. That has effects. And I don't want to overlook what happened last Monday in Teotihuacan at the magnificent pyramids in Mexico. A madman grabbed a gun and started shooting, killed a Canadian tourist, and 13 more tourists were injured. There's a video we're about to watch of what happened there, because notice how one thing leads to another. It's just one step from Sheinbaum and Lopez Obrador pointing the finger at a lone wolf committing a crime, which is what we're talking about. I warn you, the images are graphic.
It can be signified we were involved to do it. Get up, you fucking bitch. You stupid, get up and cut that. You have 1 fucking minute. And if you don't do it, you're screwed. Cut that. Cut that. Move.
You have 1 fucking minute. Move, bitch. Like you were going to move everything. Throw your shit out. You came all the way from fucking Europe. You're not going back. He's going to fire a bullet to... I'll sacrifice you. This was built for sacrifice, damn it. Not for you to come and take your damn little pictures. Can't you see that? Keep my word. 2 damn bastards have died over there. Nobody move. No one ever moves like a dog. And you stop staring at me so much. You don't look death in the eye, bastard. I need someone. You get out of here. You make me really nervous, idiot. He's going to fire another shot to... And tell those bastards that I have hostages here. And if they try to come up, I'm going to kill them. You can't see it. I'm coming. Hurry.
Let's go. The person recording was one of the people lying in front of him. The footage is taken from another tourist's cell phone, but you can see the phrases there. You came from fucking Europe. This was built referring to the pyramid to sacrifice thieves. And that's why the goal was to start killing. He was shot down by the police. But that obsession with the pre-Hispanic past of Sheinbaum or Lopez, can it cause these effects, Julio?
Of course, it's opening the gates of hell to irrationality. All of this is completely absurd. It's a pointless debate. Of course, I don't understand how Lopez Obrador and Sheinbaum dare to claim a past they don't belong to, because both of them are clearly of Creole origin. The inconsistency starts right there. And besides, where does that irrationality lead us? We need to focus on the present and future, not dwell on what could have happened or have a distorted view of the past. Mexico as such did not exist. It never existed. It was part of the Aztec Empire and not much more. But there, the people lived subjugated, oppressed, under a barbarism that cannot be sugar-coated or romanticized. It's just complete historical nonsense. All of this is the mythology created by these 21st century socialist regimes to try to affirm themselves with they are very simple, very shallow messages, ahistorical, unscientific, only to give themselves an identity and to excite and stir up the darkest and most sinister parts of human nature. And then, of course, when you take this to the extreme, you have the vocational psychopath who ends up justifying and is given a way to channel all his hatred, his mental illness, and his own evil. But evil begins with those who promote a Manichaean, a historical, hateful vision. That is truly hate speech. Like Scheinberg, like Lopez Obrador, like so many others who claim an imaginary romantic pre-colonial past where none of that ever existed. And instead of recognizing the current moment and the advantages of having a common language that millions and millions and millions already speak, which will become the most spoken language in the United States and across North and South America. And so many advantages that have been brought by what is Christian, European, and Spanish civilization, Hispanidad. They are still there, poisoning the people with hatred against outsiders, against foreigners, and against their own past.
It's terrible. In your career, have you come across people like that who say that all evils are the fault of Hispanidad Azabache?
Yes, a lot, because indoctrination has played a very important role here for decades. 21st century socialism isn't something that just happened now, it's been going on for decades. By using Gramsci's principles, they worked their way into culture, into books, and started indoctrinating. Look, please allow me to tell you something. I just made an ebook which I just released yesterday, the day before yesterday, on my YouTube channel called Libremente, Break the Indoctrination, where I give people clear tools so they don't let themselves be manipulated to break this chain that has been oppressing us for a long time. It's an ebook made with a lot of effort. You know it, my dear Albert. But with all my heart so that people really have a tool where they can identify fake news. When you're being indoctrinated, how to talk to your family without fighting. I mean, here we're talking about the fact that we need tools, all the services, citizens, really to avoid this, because this is extremism. This is, let's see, here we're already talking about attacks on human beings who just went sightseeing, right? And it turns out they run into a crazy person like this, whose mind is messed up, right? From indoctrination by those mental parasites that Julia was talking about, which are resentment, envy, all these things, and the mental distortion caused by 21st century socialism.
Well, and speaking of crazy people, let me introduce you to Sasha Sabani. I'm sure you've seen her on social media. Yes. You're going to see her as the daughter of the Iranian ambassador in Venezuela. She's getting on her private jet where she's heading off to Ibiza. He lives in Madrid, doesn't work because he's a multimillionaire, and he laughs at people like us who work and get up at 6. He calls us losers, poor people. What worries me most is not that he's dumb and rich, probably because of his father's corruption. No, because I don't see him as very hardworking. What worries me is that he has more than 1 million followers on Instagram. I mean, there are people who like being called dumb and being put down, and they follow the person who does it. That's something to analyze, Bronchaga. I mean, there have always been people like that, newly rich people, because their dad allegedly stole a lot in Venezuela or in Iran too. But on top of that, the fact that young people and older people follow this person, what is this?
Look, there's a part of this that's just curiosity, because we live in a society where the need for stimulation is intense, but the threshold keeps getting higher and higher. Something that surprises people, well, no, it's easier to stand out by being eccentric or bizarre than by being excellent. It's always been that way. So this person spends his time insulting others, ridiculing those who live a decent and productive life, and so on, right? But he has a bunch of followers, and that same phenomenon you pointed out so intelligently, Albert, exists here in Spain too. We have here a president who is the head of the corrupt, the head of an organized mafia gang, and he has an extraordinary number of followers. The problem isn't Sanchez. The problem is never this big shot. No, the problem is the pedestal of fools who support him and follow him. Because after decades of indoctrination, of black and white thinking, of brainwashing, which starts in elementary school and continues throughout the entire educational cycle, movies, even commercials, end up shaping a social mass that serves as the support for this bunch of puppets. I mean, it's hard to imagine a bigger clown than Pedro Sanchez. Very hard. And yet, despite everything, he persists. It can only be explained by that side of human foolishness that's always there.
In your case, you must know him. You live there and you're from Caracas. I'm sure you've heard stories about that Iranian ambassador in Venezuela. What do you know, Azabache?
Not specifically about him, but what I can tell you is that the close relationship between Venezuela, the Venezuelan criminal regime, and the theocratic regime of Iran goes back to when Chavez came to power. They are receiving, or they would be receiving, let's put it as a possibility, enriched uranium. We're talking about a regime that has given diplomatic passports to terrorists. In Venezuela, there are Iranian cells, and in Venezuela, there are states controlled by Hamas. This is a close relationship that goes back decades. But beyond that, I also want to talk about what Julio said, which I found very important, about indoctrination. When you see someone defending the indefensible, you always have to break it down into 3 layers, which I have summarized this way. Ignorance. Ignorance is not a lack of knowledge, but rather refusing to receive that knowledge. Number 2, indoctrination, which are these mental parasites we've been talking about. And number 3, money. They make slaves. That's why socialists like Sanchez and all these people want us ignorant, drugged. They want us to be people who are very easy to manipulate.
You were talking about Sanchez, and in the last 24 hours, a historic event has taken place. We have seen with our own eyes what Sanchez is capable of. Sanchez came to Spain and got into politics, to steal, not to govern. And when he saw that he could get into government, he hasn't stopped trying to do so or succeeding at it over the last 8 years. But how did he become the Secretary General of the PSOE? By doing the same thing, stealing votes. The scene is the one that Keddy Garrett managed to get and publishes in Objective, a wonderful exclusive. This video had been sitting in a drawer on Ferraz Street for 10 years until today. They are holding a federal committee meeting on Ferraz Street, the main headquarters of the PSOE in Madrid. Some people say you have to vote with the ballot box in front of you so everyone can see it, but Sanchez can't. Sanchez says that the vote is private and secret and the ballot box should be placed behind a wall. Why? I'll tell you in a moment. First, Susana Diaz, who was Sanchez's opponent, asking for transparency, please.
Let's see, one moment, please, just a moment. Let's see, everyone, we've already reached the point in the day where we're destroying the organization, okay? One moment, please. You see, I don't care anymore. Let the executive committee vote. Let it be a secret ballot. Let them vote on the agenda. Let them vote on whatever they want, but let the ballot box be brought here. Let there be a table. Let there be transparency. And let the whole organization come out. Come out united. That's what I want.
Well, he didn't get it. It was October 1st, 2016. Sanchez insists that the ballot box can't be in front. You'll find out why later. It has to be behind because the vote is secret.
Comrades, I believe that in any democratic organization, the vote is free when it is secret and there are full guarantees to exercise it. And therefore, what I ask is that the vote be cast in a ballot box, which is exactly what the comrades who spoke before me have said. Thank you very much.
What did Sanchez do with a gesture between him and Cesar Luena? They made Marcos, you can see him in the image, a public affairs worker for the PSOE, secretly place a ballot box behind a wall or give the order for someone else to do it. And immediately they start voting one after another. First Sanchez, then Adriana Lastra, Tudanca, Cesar Luena. Inside the ballot box, they placed ballots that they had already prepared. Coldo Garcia himself confessed to having placed as many as he could. Why did he want the ballot box to not be visible? To manipulate the result, which he has been doing since he arrived in Spain. This image from the book Todos los Hombres de Sanchez is nothing more than confirmation of what we know Julio is. A fraud, a fake, someone unfit for any political organization?
Well, in any political organization, yes, a decent one. But in a criminal organization, come on, he's a top-notch recruit. He's a cheater to begin with. But going back to what we were saying before, the problem, from my point of view, isn't Sanchez. The problem is how, even though it's absolutely clear all over the country what the origin is, what the background of this person is, it seems like it's not going to have any consequences. In any mature country, with a minimum of critical social awareness, with a healthy society from a moral point of view, this would be enough to bring down a government. Nothing more would be needed. These are the facts. You emerge, you prosper, you thrive through lies, cheating, and undermining the foundations of democracy, which is rigging a ballot box. And you cannot spend even one more minute corrupting what is a democratic society and denigrating an entire country. And yet, nothing is going to happen here. The real phenomenon to study is the lack of ability of Spanish society to confront a criminal who, moreover, is already used to acting no matter what happens. His brother indicted, his wife indicted, his entire circle of trust, those who accompanied him to rise in the General Secretariat of the Socialist Party, also indicted and even in prison, and nothing happens. Why? Because now, openly, as we said before, the boundaries are already drawn and there are people who have chosen to close their eyes. As Azabachi says, not wanting to know, which is ignorance, the worst form of ignorance, to assert themselves ideologically, to continue a tradition, God knows if it's a family one, to hold out their hand and keep cashing in and taking part in the business. But in the end, a society pays for all this because an immoral society, a society that has no limits, that doesn't know how to set boundaries for disease, ends up being corrupted by metastasis and ends up succumbing. That is the real phenomenon to study. We already knew Sanchez was a cheater and criminal. Here the question is, and from now on, now that it's been clearly proven and can be seen very clearly, how is Spanish society going to react? How are the institutions going to react? Where is the prosecutor's office to go after a criminal? It's not just his current crimes, but also his very origins that are criminal. What is going to be done? What is going to happen? How will we protect ourselves from that foreign element in the highest levels of power?
Is Spain today a sick society like Venezuela was, Azabache?
Yes. Yes. You see, this comes from history itself, from our cultures. Here, unfortunately, this issue of corruption and impunity has been a driving force for decades. And unfortunately, in a democracy, the socialists quickly understood that democracy depends on people. As long as more people vote for me, I'll stay in power. And so they found a way to undermine that democracy. The one that's full of holes today, like Swiss cheese. That's the truth. Why? Because they already found a way not to attack by force, but through democratic means with the democratic tools that we are used to. And then, once they're in power, they make the institutions implode from within, destroying everything in their path, corrupting everything in their path, and trampling on our three fundamental rights, which are the right to life, liberty, and property.
That's surprising. I insist, Alberto. That germ can only thrive in a breeding ground that was already in place. And it's a critical, polarized society where the citizen, when evaluating a situation and making a decision, has two elements. What he is seeing with his own eyes, which leads him to think that he is in front of a criminal, a cheater, of someone who is, let's say, ignoble, who doesn't even deserve to be the president of a homeowners association. Or on the other hand, there's his party affiliation and all the ideological commitments he had already embraced. Because it's enough for that balance between morality and evidence to tip in favor of sectarianism for a society to be condemned to the worst kind of hell. That's the underlying problem. That breeding ground of moral corruption has already spread throughout society over time.
Yes, I want to add something to what Julio said because it's so obvious and we always see it, this issue of dividing ourselves as a society. There is a clear communication strategy here to destroy us as societies. Here we see, for example, women against men, children against parents, students against teachers, marches and counter-marches. Everything is division, chaos. They need chaos to move forward, and they succeed. The worst part is that they succeed.
No doubt. Here's an example.
There is a mechanism of social control that is the normalization of what is completely abnormal. The immoral argument is placed at the same level of legitimacy as the moral one. So there are always two versions facing each other, and one is tinged with an ideological nuance so that the herd immediately flocks to it. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the principle of the Overton window of questioning any atrocity. There are always two opposing positions. And there's one that represents quote-unquote progressivism and the left, which can be the most outrageous, but once it's tinged with a certain color, it makes that absolutely sheep-like indoctrinated mass, mediocre, end up responding to anything. It doesn't matter. It seems to have legitimacy. Well, hey, manipulating elections, that's always been done. I've even heard in talk shows, which shows how far our society has come, that there are people actually defending the position that anything goes for power. Well, what a surprise that suddenly someone cheats or tries some trick to get power. You have to be very naive to legitimize and whitewash what is clearly a criminal position, because a healthy society, I insist, would immediately expel this foreign body and everyone who justifies it. But since the level of moral corruption in society is already becoming absolute, we will have to get used to living with this and try to preserve our clarity, conscience, and also our dignity.
Yes, but we have to point out, I refuse to swallow this policy, this indoctrination, and besides, I'm too old to change now, so I'm not going to do it. Look at how Sanchez allegedly buys witnesses from Moncloa in different trials. We've been following the investigation by Irene Taberna, a colleague from OK Diario, for days. In a month, the trial of Sanchez's brother begins. Well, that's 4 witnesses who are supposed to testify in that trial who have been promoted in the Badajoz Provincial Council. How curious, isn't it? All of them promoted right before they testify before the judge. The latest beneficiary is Margarita Suarez Villalba, daughter of the witness Jose Ramon Suarez, who has been appointed secretary of the firefighting board. In short, another position. Is it a coincidence that suddenly 4 witnesses, 4 are promoted, given better positions, hired, made permanent, or are they being paid for their silence? Another example. Listen to Mariano Moreno Pavon. He was the manager of the PSOE for years.
Basically, with the settlements that were brought to me, which were above a certain amount, what I usually did was glance over them at the settlement visually.
That is, the manager, instead of checking invoices and paying, would just glance over them visually. Of course, it was a bottomless pit for dirty money coming in and cash-filled envelopes going out. This man, at 17 years old, started to be active in the PSOE. He spent his whole life in the party. They made him manager. He handed out cash without asking questions. When they saw that things were going to court, they removed him from the position and made him, get this, president of INUSA, the National Uranium Company. What does this man know about uranium? About accounting? Nothing. How much does he make? 245,000 euros a year. That is 22,000 euros each month. Are they buying witnesses, Julio? You go to court.
Well, that's the first thought that led me to the whole sequence you mentioned. Above all, I ask myself, the crook has the right to be a crook, but what about honest people, the mechanisms of the state to protect us all? Where are they? Where is the prosecutor's office investigating this? Where is it trying to open a case against what is clearly witness tampering? Where is this person who is advancing these careers? What a coincidence. All these people who could play a role in the statement that has to be made against the corrupt president's brother. What's happening? How did they suddenly get promoted? They keep getting promoted and doing better, all with public money that we all pay for. But in exchange for what? Where is the investigation? Because this is to follow the trail, like they say in American crime novels, follow the money to get to the origin of everything. Please, what are we doing? Is this as far as we've come? Of course, it's evidence of corruption. As you rightly say, it looks like witnesses are being bought off right away. And the last case, that of this uranium director who knows nothing, they really pay him for what he does, which is knowing nothing about anything. He admits in the introduction you made that he just glanced over what the accounts were. He says, well, I look the other way because here, of course, things get mixed up with each other. I prefer not to know the details, not to break down what's coming in and what's going out. That's exactly why they pay and reward him, even putting him in charge of uranium. What do you want me to say? What could go wrong, Albert?
It's incredible. It's incredible. Well, I have messages for you. After the Maria Corina special and some of your statements following your visit to Spain, we've received a few messages for you, specifically from a lady in Venezuela and from Rosa. Let's listen. Okay.
Dear Azabache, you were complaining that afterwards she changed her mind. I imagine that could have happened during the first election, the Trump administration, or at the beginning of Biden's term. If that's the case, is it understandable why? She was right to change her strategy because she thought no one could help her. If it was true, she did a great job. And I wanted to tell Azabache when she talks about the fake opposition, and I'm seeing it here in Spain, and the feeling you have of helplessness because you see Spain's second largest party, with power in the European Union, with over 100 seats, you see that they do absolutely nothing.
Look, the first woman was complaining that what you were talking about was from an earlier stage, that Maria Corina, later risked her life, exposed electoral fraud, and deserves a vote of confidence. Has this European tour made you change your mind, Azabache?
No, not at all. There's something very important here, and I want to explain it to all the confidenciales. In all these years, we, the citizens, not politicians, okay? We citizens have been trapped between a criminal tyranny and a fake opposition that has given it oxygen. If the Venezuelan criminal tyranny has lasted for 27 years, it's because there has always been a determining factor there, which is the controlled opposition. When people want to rise up, that opposition figure comes in to calm things down, and the charade of democracy continues. I have nothing personal against Maria Corina Machado, nothing. I don't even have political ambitions because people also write to me. I've always been in this position, trying to tell the truth about what's happening and getting stones thrown at me from the other side. Why? Because the vast majority of the masses are very easy to manipulate. In Maria Corina Machado's own speech, she said that anyone who asks for elections is either with her or with the other side. So she's already dividing you. You know it. I think there's no one in the world who rejects Chavismo more than I do. It took everything from me, my country, my family, my career, my mother. Everything I've ever loved in my life was taken from me by Chavismo. But on the other side, there's a fake opposition that, instead of doing things right, doesn't do them at all. And I'm someone who learned a long time ago that public officials work for me. Not me for them. What's my duty? To point out with all my strength that if Maria Corina takes part in elections under a Chavista umbrella that isn't dismantled, and allow me to take one more minute. Because the Constitution is Chavista and legal, the Supreme Court of Justice is Chavista, the National Electoral Council is Chavista, the National Assembly is Chavista, the armed forces are Chavista, the media is controlled by Chavismo, and even the political opposition is also controlled by Chavismo. My point is that this has to be completely dismantled. Because if that isn't completely dismantled, not even if Maria Corina Machado wins, which everyone will be happy about because I'm sure everyone will be like, oh, she won. This is what we wanted, right? How long will Maria Corina last? Until Trump leaves. So I want Venezuela's true freedom, the lasting one. And for me, I'll close with this, Albert. We have to root out the criminal tyranny. We have to dismantle that along with the fake opposition, rebuild the country's institutions, restore order. We have to get rid of the terrorists, the guerrillas, the gang leaders, the colectivos. Clean up, and then, after restoring order and rebuilding institutions, then we will have a lasting democracy, where parties will surely compete and where Maria Corina will surely be the president of the republic. This is very different from me being against. I recognize Maria Corina Machado as a leader of the Venezuelan opposition, and I don't dismiss her work. Here I am pointing out something specific because I want true freedom for Venezuela.
Let's listen to Magdalena and ladies.
Sanchez asked Maria Corina to meet and said he would open the doors of Moncloa for her, and Maria Corina declined. But what a shameless person. She hasn't even congratulated her for the Nobel Prize.
Look, Maria Corina is on a tour and she's not on vacation. She is making the right contacts and having the right meetings as part of a strategic plan.
There are a lot of messages of affection for Maria Corina, and yes, it's true, there are some occasional doubts. We will see what happens, and we will keep a close watch on those in power, as is our duty. We are journalists. That's what we must do. Go ahead.
Albert, remember that I have always taken a stand in defense of the facts. It's not my truth or anyone else's, it's the factual truth. I've often warned to be careful. They remove the tyrant but leave tyranny itself. Stop saying things like narcolasma or donkey. Let's include everything or communication fails. And look what happened. Here we are. They got rid of the tyrant, but the tyranny remains.
Look, I'll tell you something in advance. If everything goes well on Monday, today is already Friday, on Monday we'll be able to go into more detail with the person at the center of it.
Allow me to add something else that's important for people to know. In Venezuela, what exists is a criminal organization, not a political organization. If you go into an election with that criminal organization as it is, you're giving a criminal organization political legitimacy indefinitely, even if they don't win the elections.
I understand you. I was telling you that on Monday we can expand on what I'm telling you now. And it's someone on behalf of Maria Corina Machado, someone close to Leopoldo Lopez, and a member of Maria Corina's personal team. He called Marcos de Quinto and many more businessmen, people with stable finances in Spain. And he asked each of them for 10,000 euros to cover the trip. On Monday, we'll talk with Marcos de Quinto. I hope he'll tell me what happened. I'm telling you, he didn't pay them, and Maria Corina found out about the story. I'm not sure if she knew already or if they acted in her name. We'll clear it up on Monday. But what I'm saying did happen. I swear, I stake my reputation on it. I know it happened. 10,000 euros from lots of people, not just one, lots of them. If you paid 10,000 euros, you got a reception, a cocktail with Maria Corina. If you didn't pay, you couldn't get in. All of this, whether it was done with her knowledge or not, I hope Marcos de Quinto will clarify it for me on Monday. But I wanted to say it to clarify things. Well, more on Sanchez, Maria Meva, and Alex, folks.
After having seen that video where Sanchez shakes hands with that boy and that woman, both black, I would like Albert for that video sequence to appear all over Spain, all over the world. It's extremely important because we have to expose this guy who is a hypocrite and a criminal.
The president urgently needs to win these upcoming elections no matter what, because otherwise he'd be standing trial sooner rather than later.
It turns out there's no way out. There's no way out. We have to wait, we have to see, and we have to adapt to the existence of Muslim parties. A mayor of New York, the mayor, we have to start getting these scoundrels out of Congress.
Of course, there's a way out. Please don't get discouraged, right, Julio? There are many of us. I started this little platform with you and Azabachi 3 or 4 years ago. Hey, there were 4 of us, right? There was The Objective, El Debate, me, and a little bit of El Confidential. Do you remember? Now we're a crowd. The media, we're still a minority, but the public is much better informed than 3 years ago when they didn't know who Begoña Gomez was, right?
Certainly. You were saying a moment ago and you said, Julio, what I can't do is give up because I'm already too old. You're not that old. You still have many journeys and many battles left to cover. God willing, may we face them together with Azabache, who looks more beautiful every day. Allow me the sexist comment, I don't care.
I like that you say crazy things. In Spain, if you say this, you get fined, so say it as much as you want.
It's ridiculous. It cheers you up. It lifts your spirits. Thank you, Julio. So lovely. I love it. I really love it.
I'm just stating a fact. But anyway, going back to the original conversation, as I was saying, you were saying, and you finished by saying, I just can't change the way I am. I can't let myself be corrupted. I have to keep being guided by reason, dignity, and honesty. Obviously, that's the first point, right? And for many people, your show, your fight, your activity validates what people think and reassures them. But they don't have the possibility to express it with the same clarity, with the same forcefulness. So it's so important to have those points, those moral anchors of courage and leadership, and that's the immense value of what is being done. In a world of madmen, we must not give up sanity, that's fundamental. In a world of shameless people, of thieves, we must not give up honesty, integrity. And in a world of people who are clearly selling out their homeland for a bowl of lentils or even much less than that, we have to keep defending it. So Albert, go ahead, let's continue with it.
That's good. We have to give hope, gentlemen. This will end someday and we'll see them in prison. You'll see. Let's see. What they're sending me is amazing. Hospitale de Llobregat, thousands of immigrants lining up, getting legal status. Many spend the night in front of these huge facilities they've set up to speed up the paperwork. They come from everywhere. Some don't even speak Spanish because they've just arrived from France or England or other countries. And then there are NGOs that issue vulnerability certificates. You tell me, how can they know if a family is in a precarious situation or not without investigating anything? You go there, wait in line, they sign it, and now you have one more document to get legal status in Spain. See?
Or I could say that we're going to say yes because look at the line, I'll explain why. Look how far the line of people goes, many of whom have been here since last night, they tell us, or even since yesterday at noon. There are about 400 people in this line, and they say they're basically handing out vulnerability status. Well, before we were at a Madrid City Hall office, now we're at an NGO, which is the one that signs off on the vulnerability reports.
Amancio Ortega goes to the end of the line and they give him the vulnerability certificate, making him the humblest and poorest of the poor. About immigration, Concepcion, and Minerva.
Most of them are men of military age, and Sanchez is bringing them here to build his own private army. Sanchez is preparing to take Spain by force if necessary.
I'm also very worried about the mass legalization. It's going to lead us to disaster. Every time I hear that we have to grant legal status to the people who are already working in Spain, I don't know, I just don't get it.
Of course, because someone hired them illegally. Isabel and Guile, politics has to change.
It's not about abandoning democratic principles, but about recognizing that their current mechanisms may be outdated. The separation of powers is still valuable, but it may be insufficient when facing new forms of power, technological, financial, and media. An evolution of the system could be explored. Greater direct participation but well-structured, radical transparency, stricter limits on political and economic power, or independent reinforced institutions. The key is not to destroy the model, but to redesign it with the same intellectual ambition that Montesquieu had in his time.
Look, I would propose a points-based card based on objectives for political matters. When laws are passed that benefit the citizen and the country, you earn points. And if you make a law that harms the citizens or the country in general, you lose points. And if you lose all your points, you must automatically give up your seat as a deputy or senator.
I like that idea. We wouldn't have a single one left in Congress, right, Julio?
Of course, I mean, what you've explained to me, the concepts of what benefits the country and what doesn't, that's already a controversial subject, isn't it? It's very complicated to judge it like that. Look, my son, I have 3, the youngest, who is a brilliant boy. And it's not just me saying it, his teachers say it too, okay? In a paper he did on his own about democracy, in the abstract, he invented a system he called syncretic democracy. And what did it consist of? He said that people shouldn't vote for parties, party labels, or people, but for ideas, which is different. And so the ideas were represented there, and they weren't burdened by that affiliation we have now, where you belong to this political side and you almost feel obligated, whether by family tradition, dynasty, or some kind of commitment. That's how it would move forward. And when the ballot boxes were finally opened, they'd say which party, association, or group represented each idea. I think it's a smart idea because corruption starts from that very moment. They have segmented us, they have penned us in, they have labeled us, and it seems like we are prisoners of the group we've apparently been assigned to or chosen to join, or that they have told us we must belong to. And that's where all critical thinking is lost, and that's the initial corruption, because we see people who at a certain moment are able to justify one thing and a few days later justify the opposite, just because the beloved leader has changed his mind and says so, and even boasts about it, right? That's the main kind of corruption. I completely agree with what a confidant said when she pointed out the need to review and update the systems that have been surpassed by all the technological developments. I think that's extraordinary. Just one note. Going back to the separation of powers would already be a great achievement, because right now we're witnessing the destruction of all the boundaries between the legislative, executive, and judicial powers. Everything is mixed up, and tyranny is advancing precisely because it has made those three classic compartments permeable.
No doubt. And someday Donald Trump Asabache will be recognized for what he does at times. For example, getting Maduro out of Venezuela. But he just saved the lives of 8 women in Iran who were going to be sentenced to death for protesting in the street. The folks on YouTube are looking at your photos. They were going to hang all 8 of them. Every year, for example, in 2025, Iran hanged 2,000 people. It's outrageous. It's savage. Dozens of them every day. Well, Donald Trump, in the negotiation that both countries are carrying out, has saved the lives of 8. He deserves recognition for that, right?
He should be recognized. Look, people may or may not like Trump or his ways, but it's undeniable that he's the only man who's had the guts to stand up to an entire system. And I'm talking about the criminal Venezuelan tyranny, the criminal Cuban dictatorship, which is ongoing, and the theocratic regime of Iran. And he's really put Russia and China, which are part of the system, in a position, because when you talk about this, you have to talk about the whole package. So Trump, every gesture he has made is precisely for the defense of the free world. Many people in the chat, when I do live streams, tell me, no, but Asabache, he does it in the interests of the United States. But that's fine. That's perfect. If he's the president of the United States, of course he's going to look out for the interests of the United States. The thing is, by looking out for the interests of the United States, he's also looking out for the interests of the free world. It's wonderful that he stopped this theocratic regime. I remind people that they have massacred more than 40,000 people in the last protest. We know about these 8 girls. In 47 years, how many women must have gone through there? We're talking about a regime that violates human rights, commits crimes against humanity, and carries out extrajudicial executions, massacres, and hangings. The truth is, there shouldn't be a regime like that on earth, my dear Albert. Also, let me add something else. This regime has all of us in the West under threat. To them, each one of us is impure, even those who defend them.
Notice when the president...
Allow me, Albert, just a note, because it's important to get to the root of things. This terrorist, criminal, and murderous theocratic regime, which Asabache also described, had its blessings and its origins in this kind of inequality. An understanding from the European left, particularly the French left, and the French Communist Party itself, which praised Khomeini. This goes back a long way, and to this day we have seen the fundamental connections between Podemos, and the radical Spanish left, and the Iranian regime. And we have also seen how Iranian state terrorism has entered Spain. They attacked Alejo Vidal Quadras, trying to kill him, and he survived by a miracle that happens only once in 100,000 cases. That is to say, all of this has been received, supported, whitewashed, and justified by the left. Behind all that madness of hanged women, tortured young people, of a terrible regime that destroys your life because it gives you no options or way out. The European left has always been there, justifying it amid the idiocy we live in. These people are also accomplices to that tyranny, just as they have been to the Cuban and Venezuelan tyrannies and so many others.
I just want to add this because I think it's important. There was a warrior of light who wrote to me and said, Azabache, the theocratic regime of Iran has been advised by the Cuban regime for the past 20 years. So when you do the math that Cuba has been repressing its population for 67 years, and you look at the theocratic regime that's been around for 47, the numbers add up.
No doubt. Cuba, stay strong. You're next, and it's going to happen this year. You'll see. Well, meanwhile, the Pope goes from dictator to dictator, visiting the worst of Africa, but without saying a word about the deaths of Catholics in Nigeria. Lola talks about the Pope.
I think it's shameful that the Pope is sitting there with dictators and doesn't take a moment today to visit Nigeria and say a few words for the Christians who are being massacred.
No, and something else, Lola, he should go and put himself on the line. That's his job. That's what he's there for. What, is he afraid that he'll be sacrificed? Well, just like Jesus did, right? For everyone. Look, there's a scene that really touched me. How are the priests in Nigeria saying mass? And they do it. You're going to see a video I never thought I'd see. They do it with an AK-47 on their back in case someone shows up at the premises. Inside the church at any moment, and they are forced to shoot. This image is brutal. You see the priest with that AK-47. Some people will say, you shall not kill. I think here there's an exception, right, Julio? In this case, it's self-defense.
Well, let's see. The gospel says it very clearly. Jesus says to him, Peter, shepherd my flock. That is, the shepherd's duty is to protect his flock and the sheep. And therefore, we call them shepherds, priests. So they do very well to take care, and they are there, right, to defend themselves. That AK-47 in the hands of that brave priest represents the courage to defend his flock, his herd. Therefore, all my admiration goes to the shepherds who truly take care of their sheep. Let's leave it at that.
How nice. Yes, sir. Let's go to the newsroom. Susana Gask, latest messages.
Greetings from the newsroom to all our insiders and of course to your panelists. Santiago tells us that what happened with the Red Cross is outrageous, a real scandal. The day the truth comes out, it will be a real scandal. Encarna says it's a disgrace for all politicians. In general, it's a disgrace. But don't they care about Spain, she asks us? Only about their bank accounts, because this is all disgusting. Sylvia says they've let the enemy into our home. And on top of that, in a big way, Montserrat also says that this is unbelievable, getting paid without ever having contributed and getting paid a pittance after contributing for 40 years or more. This has to blow up somewhere, folks. How long are we Spaniards going to keep putting up with everything that's happening? But nobody does anything here. Jose says he's so angry about the legalization, and I'm not against it, he explains to us, not at all. I'm a small business owner, he explains to us, and I have 3 migrants, and I'm delighted. I'm sure there will be many more like them. But that right has to be controlled and given to those who are truly up to the task, not just anyone. Jose Adolfo also writes to us, and this is directed to you, Albert Castillon. I deeply admire your work, Albert. In more than 50 years of RTVE, I have never seen a journalist like you. The risk you take every day for your country is admirable, and you clearly deserve recognition. Due to my personal and family situation, it's difficult for me to express myself and support you as I'd like, though I wish I could if possible. I was hospitalized when your channel was shut down and I couldn't contribute. I hope you can read this. I am sending you a big hug and sincere concern. Take care of yourself and slow down. I don't want anything to happen to you. I also value Abascal, and I think he is a good person and is also prepared. But above all, I congratulate you. And we'll leave it here, Albert. It's very important that those who are joining this program can also follow us on our digital newspaper, castellonconfidential.com, where we post all the news and, of course, all the interviews. Thank you very much, Albert.
Thank you very much. Stay strong, keep your spirits up, and let's keep fighting. Let them not think that we are losing the battle. We are slowly winning the war with small battles, and the enemy did not expect this reaction. I always say it, but here in Venezuela, in Cuba, and in many places around the world, there is a completely legitimate defense, a silent, slow, but very tough resistance that those dictators cannot possibly ignore. And it is wearing them down little by little and slowly but endlessly. Sanchez knows he has no future. Delcy Rodriguez knows she will end up in jail. The Castros know they will end up in prison or on the run. All of that seems inevitable to me. It's just a matter of time. We won the battle, although the war isn't over yet, right, Julio?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you, but we have to stand firm and never back down in the face of the enemy. Let's see if this news you were hinting at in your style of building up expectations for a big mobilization and so on for the month of May.
Let me tell you something more poetic.
Go ahead, hit me with it.
By the tongue, and I wouldn't see you.
But of course, he says it'll be in May.
So you have to remember, it'll be in May. It'll be at the end of May in Madrid.
And you have to make me poetic in May, when the heat bears down, when the lark sings and the nightingale answers. Well, yes, sir. In the month of May, we have to give it an even bigger push to keep weakening the foundations of this corrupt government and take back our freedom and national sovereignty. Go for it, Albert. You'll be there in May.
We did it. Thank you, Julio Bronchal, for being here. It's an honor. Thank you very much, my friend.
The honor is mine. Azabache, greetings and kisses.
A big hug, Julio. Me too. Well, I hug both of you. And let me add something. Here, the battle over messaging, the battle of ideas has to be present all the time. The main battle that we, as good citizens, are responsible for is to watch over, demand, and wage this battle over messaging. No one is going to do it for us. And they can save countries, Albert. They can really save countries. Well, my warrior, I send you a big hug to you and to all the confidenciales. Follow me on my social media, Azabach Online. My ebook is also available for free. It's there, linked on my channel. I send you a kiss and long live freedom. Damn, ole.
Sending you a kiss, Azabache. Take care. Friends, get ready. Today is a day to talk about history with Paco Alvarez. We have a hero. You're listening to Castillon Confidential. You know that every week we have a hero here with Paco Alvarez, our friend from Historia Confidential. Go to his YouTube channel, Historia Confidential, subscribe, and you'll be amazed by the history our resident historian can teach you. Today we have a hero from the Second Spanish Republic, which is quite recent and also rather unknown. You'll find out why in a minute. Paco Alvarez, how are you? How's it going, my friend?
Well, I'm delighted to be here with you and with all our confidentiales talking about heroes, heroes of the empire, heroes of the republic, heroes from all throughout our history. And yes, today we're going to talk about a very curious case, about a man named Marcelino Martín Gamazo. And people might say, who is this man? Well, this man was indeed a Republican, a very staunch Republican, and a specialist in law. A Basque gentleman, moreover, who was the Attorney General of the Second Republic, appointed by Alcalá Zamora, a Republican to the core who was killed at the beginning of the Civil War. He was killed by the Socialists, by the PSOE, by PSOE militiamen.
Sanchez's party. They were already killing attorney generals before.
He was killed, that's right. I'm afraid that's how it is.
I don't understand how it doesn't change its name with such a dark history behind him. Tell me the story of how the PSOE murders an Attorney General of the Republic.
That's right. And they keep it very quiet, of course. For them, they do this thing they call democratic memory or historical memory, but they clearly have no memory at all. And they have no idea about history either. As for democracy, just see how democratic they are. Taking advantage of the fact that the Civil War had started to kill the former Attorney General of the Republic, what are you supposed to be defending against the nationalists or Francoists or whatever you want to call them? Anyway, our Marcelino Gamazo, let's say it, was born in Arizabaleta, a tiny village in Guipúzcoa, which I think still doesn't have 7,000 inhabitants. He was born in 1879, and as a young man, he came to study in Madrid at the university that was then called the University of Madrid, the Complutense. And here he studied law, and here he met the woman who became his wife, Narcisa Fernández de Rubí de los Altos from Cuenca. It's important that we say where she was from because this will be relevant to the story later. And with her, well, they had a happy marriage and had 9 children. He was the Secretary General of the Madrid Bar Association on many occasions, at least 3 times. Dean of the State Attorneys, in other words, a jurist of the highest standing and widely respected, to the point that, in fact, the Second Republic appointed him Attorney General of the state because of his excellence and his knowledge of the law.
At that time, he was independent, he was honest, he was a respected jurist because the socialists hated him to the point of killing him.
Precisely. Maybe that's why, right? Let's see. His crime was doing his job at the Supreme Court in the case that was opened against Francisco Largo Caballero for having been the instigator of what history has called the Revolution of 34, which was nothing more and nothing less than a coup d'etat, in which, without a doubt, it was an armed uprising against the government of the Republic. Instigated, I insist, by Francisco Largo Caballero. Even they admit this, so, there's no doubt about it. And indeed, when this hypothetical revolution rose up in arms, the army of the Republic had to be ordered to put an end to this coup d'etat, and there were more than 1,000 deaths. So, of course, Gamazo, what he did was to act as the prosecutor, requesting 30 years in prison for this man for having incited a popular uprising, I insist, that ended with 1,000 deaths. And with the need for the Republican Army to go and solve things and restore the existing legal order in the Second Republic.
In other words, what he did was to ensure that the law was enforced. That's why today our hero is Marcelino Martín Gamazo for being a good jurist, a good prosecutor. That's right. How did they see him?
Well, of course, after he accused Francisco Largo Caballero, in the end, the Supreme Court, and we're talking about a very, very turbulent time. It's July of 36. The coup hasn't happened yet. But of course, the pressure made the Supreme Court clear Largo Caballero of all charges. So Gamazo said, well, this is over. He stepped down and went to his wife's estate in Cuenca. And in August, a truck full of PSOE militiamen showed up there, saying they had to take Martín Gamazo and his 3 oldest sons, who were 17, 20, and 21 years old, for questioning. Gamazo, who still believed in legality and still believed in the Republic, I insist we're in August of 1936, the war had just started, noted, there's nothing to fear, they'll take us to Albacete, we'll give our statements, and they'll bring us back because we have nothing to hide. And of course, what happened? Well, halfway there, they stopped them on the side of the road, took them out of the van, tied them to some trees that were there, and spent the whole day torturing the boys and their father. And the next day, they killed them in order of age. They shot them in order of age. First, they killed the youngest, who was 16, in front of his brothers and his father. Then the 20-year-old, then the 21-year-old in front of their father. And finally, Gamazo, the Attorney General. They killed them and left them lying on the road, on the side of the road in the field like animals. In August, I insist, in La Mancha Conquense, and that's it. And they left so happily and so content after having avenged Largo Caballero, or someone who tried to accuse Largo Caballero.
What a horror. The PSOE has so much to apologize for and so much reason to stop talking about democratic memory and cease to exist as a party that it still surprises us every day. Paco, does this honest Attorney General have any recognition?
Well, there have been attempts. There have been several attempts to name a street after him in Madrid, to put up a monument for him in Madrid. I know that on the road, right at the spot where they were killed, there were some crosses and a small plaque remembering this event. I hope it's still there. But with the historical memory law, who really knows? In fact, I think it was in 1940. Around there, 41, someone recognized one of Gamazo's murderers and so on in the street. Then he was arrested, taken to trial, convicted, and executed by firing squad for having been the murderer of the Attorney General. And now, according to the law, that murderer, he is the victim of Francoism and not Gamazo.
Come on, this is insane. We've turned history upside down for political reasons. This is outrageous.
Totally. On the other hand, his widow in 1942, that is during the Francoist era, received an extraordinary pension from the Francoist government so she could support the rest of her children. I mean, what I'm saying is the Franco regime paid a pension to the widow of the Attorney General of the Second Republic, while the PSOE, one of the democratic parties, and all of this, it was organized so that several militiamen, let's say some PSOE militiamen, were in charge of killing Gamazo and his sons in front of him, from youngest to oldest, in front of him, so that he would suffer. And that was after torturing them for a whole day under the sun in August of 1936.
We're lucky to have you here to remind us of these heroes. A great hero in the history of Spain, Marcelino Martín Gamazo. They will never want to recognize him as he deserved, least of all governments that are heirs of those murderers like the one we have today. Paco Alvarez, I follow your Historia Confidential channel on YouTube. Thank you very much, my friend.
See you, friends. See you later.
And I have some concerned messages today being Friday about the Serra de Collserola, the one surrounding Barcelona, because of the swine fever. Listen to Saku.
The Collserola area is still dealing with the swine fever issue, and they are still giving fines. And everything is at a standstill, but they keep giving fines and they don't say anything and they don't do anything. What is this? Is it just a way to keep collecting money and see how to control the population, or what?
And look at Juanjo. He went to the area and recorded.
Good morning, I'm Juanjo, a resident of Sardañola del Valle, the place where the swine fever virus was detected. And to this day, I don't know how many months we've already been banned from entering the Collserola Park. They sent some images of what they're doing, trying to fence off the whole countryside, or the forest in this case, right? 8,000 hectares. They don't tell us anything. Nothing is known about the investigation. In fact, the reopening of the Collserola Park, or the lungs of Barcelona, remains undefined.
No one can go in or out. There are infected wild boars. The main suspicion is what we mentioned here. There are some laboratories where they were researching the swine fever strain, and it got out from there. There was a leak. But of course, they don't say that because it's very hard to get to the bottom of it. Lack of information, lack of transparency, and in the end, they're going to make people ignore the access controls and blatantly disregard those protective tapes they've seen. The lack of information is the worst thing an administration can do. One more warning, Annabelle. Be careful if you're traveling this weekend on the AP7 again in Catalonia.
It seems that on the AP7 in Catalonia, there is a specific stretch that is especially dangerous, where there are a lot of robberies happening. And also, they're not just stealing belongings, they're also taking children, even babies.
The thing about the children doesn't seem to be accurate. There have been some scares, but that wasn't the goal. They steal purses and cars. Look, since I started in journalism 40 years ago, the gang was already around. I'm sorry, that's what it was called, the Peruvian gang. On the AP7, they would pretend there was some kind of breakdown, or if you were stopped because your car broke down, they'd come over and instead of helping you, they'd empty out your car. Be careful, they're still operating. They've been stealing for 40 or 50 years and haven't stopped. Well, actually, there's more. There's a video that Hector sent me. It was made by Fergojone. And I found it really funny. It almost makes you feel sorry for them. Well, no, not sorry. Just watch.
Well, guys, today is a sad day. Castile and Leon, I'll leave you the news here. 54 union members are going to have to start working. The cuts by Vox have led them to lose their jobs, and they can no longer live off the state and eat shrimp. A sad day.
A sad day. A sad day. You're right, my friend. We have to find a substitute for the prawn, no matter what. Making 54 union members work all at once. What cruelty. Well, Pancho is in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you very much for that great show you do. Keep it up.
I really enjoy listening to that strategic information you share, not just about Spain, but globally. A hug, blessings.
Blessings, my friend. Keep sending me audios and messages. You were the first one to send them, and I appreciate it. Well, they send me, I don't remember the name, forgive me, a friend, the book by Cristina Martin, Freedom or Tyranny, well shielded with 2 bottles of Catalan sparkling water. I spoke with Cristina yesterday. I really miss her a lot. Now she's doing a daily show on the RT channel, but I'll try to find some time to listen to her around here whenever I can, because you always have to listen to Cristina Martin very carefully. Well, and Sanchez, with artificial intelligence, gives orders to his secretary.
Good morning, this is Ana, secretary at Moncloa. Ana?
It's me, Pedro Sanchez. You had something for me, right?
Oh, hi, Pedro, handsome. Well, yes, look, the campaign slogan has already been chosen, okay?
For the 2027 elections.
That's right.
Did my advisors take care of it?
That's right, the 600. We locked them up in a hall.
Very good, very good. And what campaign slogan did they choose?
They wanted something strong, okay, and disruptive.
Okay.
Something that accurately reflects the essence of PSOE.
Wait, I just got an idea. Vote PSOE, the best for Spain.
They're laughing at us. Begonia keeps an eye on the secretary. They seemed awfully close. Well, I'll just leave it at that. And there's a phrase that Victor sent me. It made me think. Sometimes they send me phrases and I keep thinking about them for a while. This is the phrase. Hernan Cortés, along with 500 men, was an invasion, 600 to be exact. But millions of immigrants, Africans, Muslims in Europe are not. They come to bring cultural wealth. I'll leave it at that. Well, there's another idea from Begonia with backing vocals from Irene Montero and Yone Belara. Just a little, please. Oh, I'm sure it was your next mistake and your past. Someday we'll see, I promise, that we're going to live through this together. How does Begonia divorce Sanchez? How does Begonia start dropping bombshells before a judge against her husband? You'll see in time, and it won't take us long. Well, and there's a song we all know, the famous Cara al Sol, which they've changed the lyrics to a little bit. How Pedro Sanchez, with his dictatorship, is making Spain look bad. He'll keep stealing hand over fist to go after the media. Well, then I'll have to pay copyright fees and we don't have any money. Thank you for sending me such interesting things. And today we finish with a song for the amazing show Emilio has made. Listen for a bit, it's beautiful.
For all the insiders, Albert, go ahead, thank you.
In the cotton fields. What things do they do to you? Thank you, Emilio. Listen to the lyrics for a moment. It talks about what we're telling here every day on Pedro's show.
On TV again. Everything clean, everything neat, everything as it should be. If you ask too many questions, they look at you in bad faith. Hey, maybe things will go really well for you. They say there's freedom, they repeat it nonstop, but try to make them uncomfortable and you'll see what's behind it. The media tells stories, but not all in the same way. If the topic is sensitive, it's better not to go too deep. There's Spain, all good freedom, but luxury is not for war. Thank you. Here the media is very free. Until those in power call, hey, change the headline. Better not to bring this one up. Institutional advertising is well distributed. You see?
Play the beginning again, please. That'll be our battle cry.
For all the confidential followers.
Friends, have a great weekend. If nothing strange happens, we'll be here first thing Monday. If something does happen, we'll show up. Follow us on social media to find out. A kiss to everyone.
Yo lo sé, somos confidenciales, tú eres confidencial, yo soy confidencial, todos confidenciales, todos confidenciales, pero solo para mentes abiertas y para gente despierta. Desde la trinchera, las balas silban y no hay manera de salir allá afuera. Aquí la libertad tiene las alas de cera. Albert Castillo, Susana Gash, Tucci Castillo y demás. Muchas gracias. Con esto y un bizcocho, hasta mañana a las 8.
Castillón Confidencial by Albert Castillón.